Hi everybody, it's Dawn Kuhn, the mental health mom. I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to jump on, my boys are in their neurofeedback session, and I wanted to jump on for Candid Convo number 2, getting through the hard days. I mentioned earlier in the previous Candid Convo that I want to kind of start a series of these that really just involve getting down to the real deal, like no transparency. Total transparency. What am I saying? I feel like a politician when I say that. Total transparency. But really talking about subjects in their true, total, real form. Just getting real. One mental health heart to another. You know, if you're a primary caregiver of somebody with a mental health disorder, whether you're a mom, a dad, an aunt, an uncle, a grandma, a grandpa, this is for you, because the title of this is Getting Through the Hard Days. And we all know if we're dealing with children that have mental health disorders, there are hard days. In fact, sometimes there's more hard days than easy days. And I want to have a real candid conversation about that. So it's a little different. Most of the videos I've done have been more on the informative side. But I want to make sure as I'm chronicling our journey, I'm chronicling the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so today is just, a little bit of the not so great talk. That talk about what do we do and how do we feel when we have the really hard days. And I have to tell you, I have had a couple of really, really hard days, a few of them in a row. And when I say hard days, I mean really hard days. Those kind of days where as a mental health mom, you sort of go deep inside your head and sort of deep inside your soul, and you go to that dark place. That dark place that you don't like to talk about, that dark place that you don't tell anybody about, but you go deep down within yourself into that dark place where you think all kinds of things. And none of them are really good. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we all go there at some point, especially if you have kids with mental health disorders. It's tough stuff. So today I really want to go there. To be short, the reason I've been going through some hard days is the boys have been struggling. When you're doing neurofeedback training, if you think about it just from the most simplistic terms, you're retraining your brain's brainwaves. In other words, you're sort of changing the way your brain functions. And that is not going to be without some difficulty in doing so. And it's kind of like if you think of a hurricane, you got to go through the eye of the storm to get to the other side, to get to the rainbow, if you will. And right now, we're really going through the hurricane. It's been really, 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 really tough. Not that that's anything bad against neurofeedback. That's what it has to do in order to change the brain waves, but it's tough to go through. And even though we were kind of warned and we knew what we were getting ourselves into, when you're actually walking through it, it's really difficult. My oldest son, who we thought was bipolar, who's actually having seizure activity and who rages quite frequently, has been even more angry and having more difficult time controlling his emotions. And my youngest son, who we thought had ADHD, who doesn't, but does have high-functioning autism and extreme anxiety, he is struggling, and because he's feeling different, and because of the anxiety, he doesn't know how to get comfortable in this kind of new skin he has. He doesn't know how to adjust to his brain being wonky, as he says. My brain's a little wonky, and it feels different. And we're starting to wean him off of his ADHD meds, and he just feels different, and he's not comfortable in his own skin. So that manifests itself through screaming, crying, being overly emotional, because of just not feeling, right, feeling wonky in the brain, as he says. But we have to go there. We absolutely have to go there. We don't really have a choice. Right now, the neurofeedback is sort of focused on a part of their brain in their temporal lobe called their T3. And this T3 lobe really controls like your anger, your emotional outburst. And so in order to help retrain the brain waves, it's kind of like if you think about if you have a wasp nest or a hornet's nest outside. on your patio or by your front door or something, and you want to get rid of it. In order to get rid of it, you're going to have to poke at it. You're going to have to like whack it down with a broom, right? You're going to have to hit it hard. It's not just going to disappear because you will it away. You have to actually, kind of go to bat with it in order to make it disappear. Well, this T3 part of the brain is like a hornet's nest. And in order for us to retrain those brain waves, we have to poke it. And we have to sort of hit it. And we have to really sort of make those hornets and wasps mad and buzz around so they eventually fly away. And because we're focused on the T3, it's been really hard on the boys. And as a result, I'm not going to lie, I try to be a tough mom, but some days it just gets to me. Some days it's just so much. And that's what I want to focus on is, how do we get through those hard days? So for me, I like to often turn to listening to music to help me cope with the rough days. And one of my favorite bands in the world is called Mercy Me. And if any of my friends are watching this, I'm sure they're laughing because if you've ever been to a concert with me, I act like a 10-year-old, groupie at an Elvis concert or something. I love them so much. They're a Christian band. But they have a song called Dear Younger Me. And this song has been really resonating with me the last few days as we've been struggling with raging outbursts and crying and screaming fits and kicking holes in my sheetrock. Got a couple new holes in my sheetrock. So it's been a rough few days. And this song is about kind of what it sounds, Dear Younger Me. What would you say to yourself if you could write your younger self a letter? In other words, what would you say to your younger self to help make life easier for them? And I wanted to share a couple of those lyrics with you and sort of how I relate it to getting through the hard days as a mental health mom. Okay, so I'm kind of going to do this in 5 segments, so short segments. The first segment, the first set of lyrics I want to talk about, it says, Dear Younger Me, where do I start? If I could tell you everything that I have learned so far, then you could be one step ahead of all the painful memories still running through my head. I wonder how much different things would be, Dear Younger Me. And as far as that relates to getting through the hard days, I think that the first advice I would give myself, my younger self, if I could write me, is that I have to learn how to lean on a support group. Like, dear younger self, you got to find a support group. I mean, it may be your spouse, it may be a friend, it may be your pastor, it may be your counselor, it may be your therapist. I don't know who it is, but I would tell my younger self that you have got to get connected and learn how to open up and lean on a support group because you cannot do this alone. You have to get it out. You have to get it out. I try to form a relationship with all of the doctors that my boys are involved with so that I can lean on them a little bit as well because nobody understands from a medical standpoint what my kids are going through better than their doctors. And of course I lean on my spouse and of course I lean on my friends. But if I was writing myself a letter, I would say find a support group and lean on it from early on. So that's number 1. Number 2, the lyrics are, Dear Younger Me, I cannot decide. Do I give some speech about how to get the most out of your life? Or do I go deep and try to change the choices you'll make because they're the choices that made me? Even though I love this crazy life, sometimes I wish it was a smoother ride. Dear Younger Me. Now, I know if you're a mental health mom and you're watching this, I know you agree with me that we wish it was a smoother ride every single day. We wish it was a smoother ride for our kids. We wish our kids didn't have to go through what they're going through. And we wish it was a smoother ride for us. But out of those lyrics, I would, if I was writing the same letter to myself, as sort of the second thing I would recommend doing for the hard days, is I would recommend really focusing early on in my younger self and focusing on learning how to embrace my normal. Sounds so simple. Hey guys, embrace your normal. But in reality, it's not always simple. And our normal changes. People think your normal is something that is constant. But it's not, it's fluid. It's constantly changing. What's my normal one day might not be my normal the next day. What was my normal for 5 years, thinking that my sons had bipolar disorder and ADHD, with the blink of an eye is no longer my normal. Now I'm dealing with seizure activity and crippling anxiety. So our normal can change, and we have to find a way deep within ourselves to embrace what the normal is. There may not be a smoother ride than what you have today. In fact, it might even get harder. It might get much harder. But if we learn to embrace what is our normal that we have been given, that we have created, and realize that that is enough for us, we have to teach ourselves that embracing our normal is enough for us. And the normal that we face as mental health parents, it's okay. We didn't get gypped. We didn't do anything wrong. Our kids are not being punished. This is just the normal that we were meant to have. It's the journey that we were meant to walk. And we have to somehow, some way, find a way to wake up every day embracing whatever that normal is. So embrace your normal. That's number 2. Number 3, the lyric in the song is, if I knew then what I know now, my joy, my pain would never have been my worth. If I knew then what I know now, would not have been hard to figure out what I would have changed if I had heard. In other words, it's really easy for me to figure out what I would do differently if somebody really was talking to my younger self and saying, hey, look what's coming. This is what you should do differently. But since that's not really a reality, this is just some wishful thinking, we have to face number 3. And number 3 for me is letting go of that guilt. Nobody is going to be able to tell us, hey, this is what's coming, so you should change your actions accordingly. We're never going to get that. And if you're like me, you have a lot of mommy guilt for decisions that you've made in the past. But we have to learn how to let go of that guilt. And especially on those hard days when we are deep and we are in that dark place and we are feeling guilty, we have to learn how to let it go. I mean, of course, you may have made different decisions. If you knew then what you know now, you would have made different decisions. But that's not the case. You have to believe in yourself that whatever decisions you've made along your journey have been the best decisions you could possibly make with the information that you had. I am heartbroken that I medicated my kids for 5 years when I didn't have to. Heartbroken. But I made the best decision 5 years ago that I could with the information that I was given by the professionals. Now I know that that was not complete information, but I have to learn how to let go of that guilt. I have to say, dear younger me, let it go. You did the best you could at the time. And that's so, so critical. So that's number 3, letting go of the guilt. Number 4, the lyric from the song is, set apart a brand new heart. You are free indeed. And what this makes me think of in relation to getting through the hard days, if I could write to dear younger me, if I could talk to my younger self, number 4 for me would be the importance of self-care. Now, I know self-care is like a buzzword. I mean, every therapist in the world talks about self-care. Every other Saturday when I go see my therapist, we talk about self-care because she is always on my case about how I don't do enough of it. But if I could talk to my younger self, I would scream at the top of the mountains, do more self-care. Set yourself free from your everyday life and allow yourself to be free, even if it's for a short period of time, from the stress and burden that comes from being a mental health mom. Whether it's, for me, I go to the gym 3 times a week, and my poor private trainer is like half trainer, half therapist, but she's wonderful, and it gives me the opportunity to get it out. You know, I like to work on the punching bag. I like to let the stress out. I like to take bubble baths. I like to write. I like to do research to learn more about my kids' disorders. I like to learn more about how I can make a difference in trying to change the laws. But for me, that's self-care. And if I could talk to my younger self, oh my gosh, I would say, you have got to take care of yourself, because there have been periods of time where I haven't. and periods of time where I haven't been able to. But at the end of the day, I have paid greatly for not taking care of myself. And no matter what that self-care looks like, whether it's 5 minutes a day, whether it's 2 hours on the weekend when your partner's home, it doesn't matter when or how, as long as you define it and you do it. You do it. So that's number 4. Number 5, the last one I wanted to talk about, the lyric from the song is, every mountain, every valley, through each heartache you will see, every moment brings you closer to who you were meant to be, dear younger me. And for me, when I listen to those lyrics about how through each heartache helps you become who you're supposed to be, what comes to my mind if I were going to be writing this letter to my younger self is that, Dawn, you have got to allow yourself some grace. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't allow myself nearly enough grace. I am hard on myself. I want to be the perfect mom. I never want to fail my kids. I never want to fail my boys, especially where their mental health is concerned. It's so important. I know if you're listening to me and you're a mental health mom, you understand what I'm saying. I know you do. But we have to allow ourselves some grace. We have to tell ourselves that we are good enough. We are doing enough. We are who we were meant to be. We have to celebrate the wins and not obsess over the losses. So much easier to say than do, but we have to allow ourselves some grace. If I was writing my younger self, I would be like, dear younger me, let's just start with this. Allow yourself some grace through your journey as a mental health mom. Because I don't, because I feel like all the responsibility is on me to help my children succeed, to give them the best treatment possible so that they can succeed in life when I'm gone. And sometimes I don't allow myself grace to make mistakes along the way, to learn along the way. Oh my gosh, I don't allow myself the opportunity to learn ever. I just think I should know it all and I should be able to help my kids. And I don't allow myself enough grace. And we've got to celebrate the wins and not obsess over the losses. You are good enough and you are who you were meant to be, exactly who you were meant to be as a mom. And don't forget it. Don't forget it. I just wanted to jump on today. This song really reached out to me. Again, it's called Dear Younger Me by Mercy Me, if you ever want to listen to it. But 5 things come to me that we went over in relation to the song, where if I could write a letter to my younger self about this mental health mom journey, I would tell myself to lean on a support group. Find a support group and lean on it. Open up to them. I would secondly tell myself to embrace my normal every day, no matter what that looks like. Some days it's looking pretty good and other days it's complete and utter chaos. But I would teach myself how to embrace my normal no matter what that looks like at any given moment in time. Number 3, I would let go of the mommy guilt. I would implore my younger self to let it go, to recognize that I'm making the best decisions I can with the information I have at the time. And I would encourage myself to let go of that guilt. Number 4, I would make myself, my younger self, implement some self-care earlier on in my mental health mom journey because it's so important. And if we don't, we suffer and we go to that dark place and we get depressed and we can't be 100% for our kids and they need us 100%. And you know what? They deserve us at 100%. So I would encourage myself to implement self-care earlier in my mental health mom journey. And finally, I would definitely tell my younger self to allow Dawn some grace because it's difficult for me to allow myself grace. But I know that I am good enough. I know I'm doing everything that I can to help my kids. And even if I make mistakes, I have to focus on celebrating the wins and not obsessing over the losses. And it's difficult to do. What would you say if you were writing a letter to your younger self? Try it. Get out a journal, get out a piece of paper, get out a napkin if you're watching this in a restaurant, and say, Dear younger me, and what would you tell yourself? And then save it, and every single time you need help getting through those hard days, pull it out and read it. I hope you have a great weekend, great rest of your week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care.